Hey, what's going on? It's Brad here, and today we're talking about one of the most powerful forces in the world of personal finance, a force that can literally make you a millionaire, and that is compound interest. Albert Einstein reportedly called it the eighth wonder of the world and said, "He who understands it earns it. He who doesn't pays it." If you want to build serious wealth without needing to win the lottery or inherit a fortune, compound interest is the single most important financial concept for you to understand. So in this video, I'm going to break down how compound interest works and why it's so powerful, the exact math that shows how you can turn even a small amount into millions of dollars, how you can start using it today to build wealth automatically, and how to avoid the dark side of compounding that keeps people in debt. First things first, what exactly is compound interest and why does it matter? At its core, compound interest is when your money earns interest, and then that interest earns interest on itself. Let me give you a simple example. Imagine you invest $1,000 into a stock market index fund that grows 10% per year. This is about the historical average of the S&P 500. In year one, you earn 10% on $1,000, so you now have $1,100. In year two, instead of just earning 10% on $1,000 again, you're earning 10% on $1,100. So you now have $1,210. In year three, you earn 10% on $1,210, which grows your balance to $1,331. Now, in absolute numbers, this doesn't seem like much, especially over those first couple of years. But let's fast forward 40 years into the future. That original $1,000 has grown to over $45,000 without you having to add a single extra penny. Now, imagine you invested $500 per month instead of just starting with $1,000 and letting it sit. After 40 years, you wouldn't have $45,000. You'd have over $2.9 million. Let's take a closer look at the math behind this. There are three variables that determine what you can earn from compound interest: the rate of return, the amount you invest, and the time your money spends in the market. Obviously, these are all important, and increasing any of them will increase the amount of money you earn. But as you'll see, they're not exactly equal. Let's talk first about the rate of return. We can optimize this to some degree, but only within reason. For example, if your money is sitting in a savings account, you're going to earn a little bit of interest from the bank, but certainly not enough to turn a few $100s a month into $1 million. In fact, typical interest rates for a savings account are significantly lower than the average inflation rate, meaning your money is actually losing its spending power by staying in that savings account. So even though the actual dollar amount is growing incrementally, the value of that money is actually decreasing. We can improve on this by instead investing in the market and buying assets that appreciate over time. Now, the question is, how do we choose those assets? Well, let me be clear that this is not about picking stocks. It is effectively impossible to consistently outperform the market by picking individual stocks. So while there are cases where a particular stock may grow by 300% within the span of a year, that same stock could have easily lost 100% of its value, and then your money is simply gone. So with those higher potential returns comes much higher risk. And we want to find the sweet spot between good, consistent returns and low risk. The answer is low-cost index funds that track the market as a whole. These funds allow you to own a tiny portion of hundreds of different companies, keeping your money safe and diversified and growing at the historically proven growth rate of the stock market. As I mentioned, the S&P 500 has an average annual return of about 10%, which is exactly what we're looking for to be able to take advantage of long-term compound interest without risking huge losses along the way. Now let's talk about the amount that you invest. Now, on the surface, this is pretty straightforward. Investing more money is better than investing less money. And hopefully, as time goes on and your career progresses, you'll gradually increase your income, and thus you'll be able to invest more money. But there's always going to be a bit of a limit here based on your current income and your expenses. So I would argue that it's better to invest a smaller amount of money consistently over time rather than waiting until some future point when you finally feel like you're making enough money to start investing. And that's a great segue into the final variable here, the most important factor in the compound interest equation, and that is time. The longer your money spends in the market, the more powerful the snowball effect becomes. I think the best way to illustrate this is with an example. Say you start investing just $200 per month at age 20 into an index fund. And again, we'll use the S&P 500, which returns about 10% per year. By age 65, you'd have about $1.9 million just by investing $200 per month consistently. And here's the crazy part. You only contributed $108,000 over those 45 years. The rest, more than $1.7 million, is purely the result of compound interest. Now let's say you wait until you're 30 to start investing. At the same contribution rate where you're investing $200 per month, at age 65, you'll only have $715,000, so less than half as much. If you wait until you're 40, you'll only have $259,000 by age 65. So you can see what's happening here. The longer you wait to start investing, the harder it is to take full advantage of compound interest. It's so common to hear young people say, oh, I'll just start investing once I make more money or once I hit this specific income level in the future. But even if you're only investing $50 or $100 a month, that money is going to grow into a fortune because of the time it's going to spend compounding in the market. And by the way, if you are in your 30s or 40s or older, I don't want you to think it's too late. You can optimize that other part of the formula by just investing a little bit more money per month. But if you're young and you have the opportunity to start earlier, that is the single most powerful way to take advantage of compound interest. Now let's flip the script for a second, because compound interest can also work against you. Have you ever heard someone say they can't get out of debt no matter how hard they try? That's because debt compounds against you the same way investments compound for you. For example, let's say you have $5,000 in credit card debt at a 20% interest rate. If you only make the minimum payments, after 5 years, you will have paid back easily over $8,000, but you'll still owe thousands. This is why credit card debt is financial quicksand. It compounds so fast that if you're not careful, it will trap you for life. So if you have high interest debt like credit card debt, it's so important to prioritize paying it off aggressively. With all of that said, how do you actually use compound interest to your advantage? Well, here's a simple game plan. First, open an investment account. If you have the opportunity to use a tax-advantaged account like a Roth IRA or a 401k, I highly recommend taking advantage of those. If not, you can always just use a normal taxable investment account through a brokerage like Schwab or Vanguard. Within your investment account, you'll want to invest in an index fund. The best long-term investment strategy is simply to buy and hold low-cost index funds like the S&P 500. These funds average 8 to 10% per year over the long run. And remember, consistency is key, so I would advise automating everything. It's super easy to set up automatic investments, so you never have to think about it. And again, even if you're only contributing $50 to $100 a month, doing that consistently is going to grow your wealth dramatically over time. It's also important to note that compound interest only works if you stay invested. The stock market will go up and down, but you want to avoid panic selling or pulling your money out during a downturn. Just keep investing consistently, and you'll find that the money you invest during the downturn will be worth even more in the long run. So there you have it. That is an introduction to compound interest and how you can use it to make millions. Remember the key takeaways. Start early, be consistent, and let time and compounding do the work. If you found this video helpful, I'd love it if you would hit that like button and subscribe for more personal finance videos just like this. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.